Diversity and inclusivity. What has influenced how I deal with it in a classroom? When we think about inclusivity and diversity, we think about several things: gender, identity, sexual orientation, religion, ethnicity, ability, disability, and so on. The problem is how to make sure we include everyone in our classes. The first thing that influenced how I deal with diversity and inclusivity is where I grew up. I'm French, and this means that I've been open to various cultures and backgrounds, from people who came to France from North Africa in the 60s, to the Muslim community more recently, and of course, the numerous Brits who retired to France. But my French background is not the only influence on the way I deal with inclusivity and diversity. Let me now take you a couple of thousand miles north of France to Northern Ireland, where I spent as much time there as I did in France. Northern Ireland is a very picturesque country, from Belfast to the Giant's Causeway, and of course the pub. But it's also a place which has been defined for decades by segregation. One sector where segregation has prevailed is education. The education system, from primary schools to parts of the third level education, has been segregated for several decades. In brief, there are schools for Protestants, for Catholics, for the more able pupils, for the less able pupils, for boys and for girls. Even student teachers in Northern Ireland are taught in separate teacher training colleges, one Catholic, the other one Protestant. But for the last 38 years, some schools welcome pupils of all religions and none, and pupils of all abilities. These are called integrated schools. I've spent many years researching these schools, teaching in them, and being a parent of children who attend these schools. And this experience has had a huge impact on how I view inclusivity and diversity. It made me aware of how different people are and how some differences aren't as visible as others, and therefore more difficult to deal with. The Northern Irish poet Seamus Heaney, in 1975, wrote a poem called "Whatever You Say Nothing." And it quickly became the motto for Northern Ireland. If you don't talk about issues that might cause friction and problems, then everybody will live in peace. Or will they? Is ignoring these problematic issues the way to include everyone? I strongly doubt it. In fact, integrated schools encourage you to do the opposite. When I was teaching in these schools, I always tried to get all the students to talk about these problematic issues. We might not all agree, but at least everyone had a chance to say their piece, and a chance to learn from each other. Extensive research carried out over the years by Tony Gallagher and others from Queen's University Belfast highlight the positive impact of integrated and shared education. In 2016, Tony Gallagher concluded his review of various shared education initiatives by saying that it seemed to have transformed the education landscape of Northern Ireland. How did I try to include everyone in my lessons when I was teaching in Northern Ireland? I used different techniques, such as small group teaching and role plays, and this resulted in encouraging and promoting dialogue and learning between the students from the different backgrounds. This also resonates with the Bell Hooks work, as I referred to in Patch 3. In Engaged Pedagogy, she describes teaching as progressive and holistic, and not only about sharing knowledge, but also promotes interaction and empowerment. For the last leg of my journey, I'll take you back to the med school in Birmingham, where I teach medical students how to conduct qualitative research. I don't necessarily avoid the problematic issues. Instead, I try to discuss them using small group teaching and role plays, just like I did in Northern Ireland, whilst at the same time respecting the students' backgrounds. In this video, I mainly talked about religious diversity. It is easy to forget that diversity encompasses a whole lot more. The various support networks that exist in the College of MDS and University of Birmingham help us, teachers, to be as inclusive as possible in the classroom.